come in. So yes, so hello, welcome. So it's our International Delphic Academy meeting for November. It's the autumn term meeting. Our last meeting was in July when we met. I was actually then in Britain visiting, and it was the 30th of July, so we're exactly 4 months later, 30th of November. And so there's been a lot happening in the world and also in our own lives and work, I'm sure, since then. I'm now speaking from France in the heart of old Gaul, in a lost province nobody's ever heard of called La Creuse, but it's actually only 2.5 hours from Paris by train in the dead geographical centre of France. And it's famous for George Sand lived near here, and of course Chopin lived near here. So it's got a lot of artistic creation, and every other person you meet in the street is some kind of artist or poet or musician, which is why I love living here. Okay, so that's I'll do a proper sort of welcome talk in a minute, but let's just go around and introduce ourselves quickly, and as I say, others can come in and do that in a minute. Okay, Sean, why don't you go next?
Oh,
Yeah.
hello everyone, and thanks very much, Thomas. Yeah, my name is Sean English, and I'm based here in Kildare in the Irish Republic. And my background is in peace studies and peace research, and working very closely with Thomas over many years on various projects, a wide ranging of projects, and a number of organizations I'm involved in, and one that in particular over the last 2 years we've been putting a lot of energy into is called Lex Innocentium is the law of the innocents, and it was promulgated in Ireland in the year 697. So the first Geneva Convention was promulgated in Ireland to protect innocent people in times of war, and we just picked up on that history and tradition and tried to promote it into a modern context. So we're calling it Lex Innocentium 21st century. But I mean, I'm involved in a number of other peace and related organizations working away, and I've written a few books, but not like Thomas, who's written so many more. Anyway, that's my background in peace research and broad areas of peace, and looking at the possibilities of art, music to contribute to a possible peaceful future. So Thomas has really been doing a lot of work in those great areas that other more mainstream university people haven't been doing. So thanks, Thomas,
Yeah,
for
no, no, it's a pleasure to welcome you again. Do you find time to write poetry in all your busy work? Have you done any poetry in all your writings?
not for a long time. No, sorry.
Okay, well, you should restart because, you know,
Yeah,
I can't. I mean, in Ireland, you have this wonderful tradition of poetry and music and the arts and dance and so on. So,
yeah.
um, you know, we want some more Irish poets to join the Delphic Academy and get involved. So that's great. Okay, Stefania, over to you. Do introduce yourself. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm Stefania Pasamonte. I'm the founder and president of the London Performing Academy of Music. That is a music conservatoire focused on innovation, inclusion, and diversity. I'm also chair of the Classical Label Committee here at BPI, it's the British Phonographic Industry, representing the full music industry in the UK with the government and internationally. And I'm also a concert pianist. And I've been involved through LP Mom with Action for Peace through music, actually, specifically saving Ukrainian students from our partner conservatoires
So I
during
missed. I missed. Did you say an acronym, MAMA or something? What was what?
LP Mom,
Could you?
LPAM.
What is that?
Is London Performing Academy of
Oh
Music.
yeah, that's your organisation. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. In the acronym, there is an extra M because originally it was a different name, and then we kept it because we just liked the sound of it. So it's Alpimam. And then people ask and they remember even better.
And it sounds like LPs, like long playing records. Yeah.
And yeah, and then I've been with Alpimam. We've done last year the world premiere of Turandot, made in a Mongolian with Mongolian collaborations. And historically, we discovered that Turandot was actually a real princess, a descendant of Genghis Khan. So we celebrated the 100 years of Puccini with a new version of Turandot that was representing actually the character getting into life through the original culture. So original costumes, original Mongolian dancers and wrestlers on stage, and Mongolian singers. So it was a very special things. We did the documentary. It's not finished, but I presented the trailer of it to the United Nations for a conference where I was made music director for the SDGs. So my role is to implement the SDGs through music. And now I've just come back from Brazil, as I was mentioning, COP30, where I presented the very first climate opera composed by an indigenous soprano. I'm a co-author, but the original concept comes from this indigenous soprano from Mexico. And the protagonist of the opera is a real indigenous hero, a scientist who works with the United Nations for the conservation of the Amazon. So it was very, very special to be able to premiere this
Good.
at the very first COP30 at the doorstep of the Amazonia. So had a huge resonance worldwide in terms of press, but also politically speaking. So that's what I do.
That's pretty impressive.
I
That's awesome.
forgot to mention, I also work with technology. So in Rome for the Jubilee Festival in October, I did the the Vatican Jubilee Festival. I
Right.
did the world premiere of Rachmaninoff Second Piano Concerto with the AI Orchestra in full immersion. So I was able to develop an AI orchestra, both audio and video, in an ethical way that respected the copyrights because we used recordings from my record label, and to present it as an opportunity, educationally speaking, to both to the audience to bring them into the world of music, and also to the students and that young pianists that would not otherwise have the opportunity to practice with an orchestra, understand how does it sound, to be on stage surrounded by the sound of the orchestra. It's completely different than when you're sitting in the audience and you get the whole complex sound coming to you. So that was a way of demonstrating how AI can be used in a sustainable way. And that's another of my arrows in the music for the SDGs.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So, did you perform that live in the Vatican?
It wasn't in the Vatican. It was in a special theater called the Forum Theater because it was set up with the full immersion video settings and audio. So I
Yeah,
was on stage with the piano, a grand piano, and then behind there was like a cinema screen of the orchestra that then was completely, projected all around the audience. So the audience was able to hear and see the orchestra as if they were on stage with me.
amazing. Yeah, I love that. I haven't. I don't know if I've been there, but I went to the Vatican College of Cardinals, where the cardinals meet in assembly, and they all get to vote at a conference on peace and interfaith work. So the Vatican's got great resources, and I'm really glad someone like you is using it. They ought to host a meeting for the Delphic Academy at some point, because they have a long tradition of the arts and etc. So that's fantastic news. Um, so thank you. That's really interesting what you've been up to, um, and you're definitely in the running for the Exemplary Muse of the Year award from the Delphic Academy. I would say.
Oh, thank you.
We'll have to plan that. But I think you might be in contest with Inger because she's also been up to a lot. Inger, tell us your news. What have you been up to?
First of all,
Welcome.
never in contest with Inger. Inger is on another planet. So no, if that's the case, she wins.
Okay, Inger, introduce yourself first, and then tell us what you're up to. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. I think I have to stay in the 48 hours perspective. I've been to the international annual meeting for Green Cross Sweden in Gothenburg on Thursday, and then I've been back to Malta, directly, and I'm here in Molde. And it's a Sunday, and I'm just preparing my family Christmas preparation. So we're just assisting my mom to prepare the house and cleaning the house today. But what is really on my mind these days is, of course, we have the cultivation of peace through the arts and connecting it with climate engagement. As you know, I'm the founder of the World Climate School. I've been having a very silent profile on the World Climate School. I'm just kind of revamping the sites and the ideas how to restructure it. So I've been going very deep with my friend from China, who is Mongolian, deep Taoist, deep shamanic way, and also working with AI. So we're preparing a House of Consciousness in Oslo event with China Nordic partnership on the deep inner knowing. So we have 3,000 square meters in Oslo for people in social enterprises and all kind of new startups. So Startups for Peace is there. We're having this deep ecology training course with a Switch to Eco for young people, Erasmus funded. So we're having 7 modules that we kind of had online training the last 2 weeks. And then for COP30, I have been supporting at a distance Global Youth Coalition from the Free Zone. Maybe you were there. Stefania, I saw you met my friend Vandana.
What is incredible is that she thought I was the singer. She didn't understand I was Stefania, and I didn't understand it was her. I thought it was the person on the poster. So I was going to the person on the poster. So we completely mismatched, and we didn't. So we hugged and kissed. There was this energy where we realized, we were connected. But I realized afterwards that she was the one in the chat for Alexander. Otherwise, we would have done.
Yes, exactly. So, Stefan, so I connected the 1 Million Women Dancing Initiative with the youth initiatives and, of course, the indigenous initiatives. So I was just, I was navigating out of Malaga, had some webinars, but I didn't stress myself out. I had a conference online hybrid from Stockholm to Belém, and it was together with the Norwegian Climate Network, the Swedish Climate Network, and in the Swedish Climate Network it includes the Church of Sweden, or what can I say? It's not a state church anymore, but it has the more than 100 climate organizations. So for the last 2 weeks, I'm really igniting a new identity. I call it the Nordicans, Europeans, but also my African partnership with my children, to Zimbabwe and in Nigeria and all the Kenyan and all the green belt movements. So there's a lot of things going on in multiple layers. But the most important thing now is for me the going at scale with the World Climate School, assist so I get people to take a little bit over so I can have more time even to work with the Delphic Academy because it's overwhelming. But what I like now is like you, Stefania, with Vandana, having this mermaid dance conceptual structures. We can really go leverage it up. My friend, maybe you know her, but her name is Yingling Zhangidwan. She's just returning now to China today from Madrid, but she's also a friend of Vandana from Ibiza. So we have this spiritual anchor in our deep old European culture through many layers and globally as well. It's the deep history of humanity that is revitalizing itself into a new ecological civilization. So in that flow of confluency of water coming together and the wisdom traditions coming together, And of course, Thomas, you know, I've been in Berlin and I've been visiting Walter and Christian as well. So I feel the field is a little bit slow, but still it's like I can see things are growing, and also the peace train movement with Alexander now being still in not in coma, but he's recovering. It's kind of igniting a lot of invisible webs of relationships, that we should be stronger in welcoming to get more trust and visibility in our efforts. So
Sure.
that's why.
Well, thank you very much. I think what we'll do is I'm going to do my kind of introductory talk, which I prepared some notes for. And
Good.
And then we'll go back round and people can make comments or, add in bits I've missed off. Just to say a couple of apologies first. So I did have a long conversation with Christian Kirsch yesterday and Waltraud.
Yes.
They can't come. They're very busy with, many things. And they've had their own health issues in Berlin. So, but they send their love. And I'll be reporting back on my meetings with Christian in a minute. And also from Alexander, obviously, Bohane, who can't be with us, who's had a terrible health scare, a heart attack of sorts in New York. He's in hospital. We didn't think he was going to live, but he's come back. He's come out of his coma. He's able to be conscious. I'm hoping we'll record this. He can even watch it, maybe. And hello, Alexander. Sorry you can't be with us, but please don't leave us yet. You've got work to do. And also an apology from Australia. I've just had an hour on with someone in Perth who couldn't stay for the main meeting because it's 1:00 there. And she's a young mum with, she's just done a PhD in music and autism at the University of Melbourne, looking at how music can help autistic children. And we had a very interesting chat. She's from the O'Rourke family of Irish people who've gone to live in Australia. And we got talking about the Delphic Academy, and I said, do you want to help? Yes, please, And it turns out, she said, there are loads and loads of Greeks living in Melbourne. And it's the largest concentration of Greeks living abroad in any place in the world is in Melbourne. And so she's going to spread the word. The Delphic Academy will be able to, apparently there are some people in Melbourne that just speak Greek. They're monolingual. There's such a big community there. So that was interesting. We had a very interesting chat. And she was telling me about her trip to Tara in Ireland and the old Celtic, traditions and so on. So that's another apology. She had to go to bed, couldn't stay up for the main meeting, but she's with us in spirit. Yeah.
Thomas, can I give you an apology for Marion?
Okay. She can't join us. Yeah, well,
she's out at the moment. Yeah.
Oh right. Okay. Well, thanks anyway. Okay, so I just want to welcome everybody. Just remind us it's St Andrew's Day, 30th of November, and he's the patron saint of Scotland, where I lived happily for 7 years. He it's a crazy story. How did he get to St Andrews off the coast of Scotland? But it's a sort of symbolic thing that the world is interconnected. There are funny saints turn up everywhere, like St James. What on earth is he doing in Santiago de Compostela?
Yes.
I think the point of these saints is that at the saint level, we're all interconnected, and every country is part of every other country. And that's why I've done this encyclopedia of saints and sages, a universal calendar of saints and sages, which I spent years editing, and I use it for teaching. So every day of the year, there's saints from every different religion in this calendar. And I think that's symbolic. So today's St Andrew's Day. He's sending his blessings, I'm sure. It's also, the question of how we can use the arts. I mean, what we're here for is what more can we do as artists, poets, entrepreneurs of the arts, cultural figures, to try and persuade the world to use arts to solve our differences culturally rather than violence. And I'm thinking of the tragedy of Sudan, the civil war that's going on. Of course, Ukraine, Russia still at it. Gaza, Israel, what more can we do or should we do? One of the problems, of course, is art has always been a sort of individual thing. It's a thing you do privately. I wanted to become a poet when I was in my teens because I wanted to. That inspiration was to become a poet was very deep in me, and I became a poet. But I also want to do the social aspect of the arts now. I think we have duties as artists and lovers of the arts to bring that message to the bigger platform. So that's why I'm so delighted to hear the work you've been doing, Stefania and Inger-Mette. Let's do more. Let's use the Delphic Academy to showcase that. So what I've been doing, because I'm also a trained historian professionally, I've undertaken to write the biography of Christian Kirsch, the founder of the Delphic Games, who has a tremendous lot of historical experience, wisdom. He's been around the block even before we were born. And I've been interviewing him with very precise questions and recording it all on Zoom. I'm turning it into a book at the end of the 12 interviews. I did the second one yesterday for 2 hours. And I want to just briefly report for colleagues that don't know Christian's life story. I didn't. It's really interesting. He was born in Berlin in 1943. And his mother was a Berlin aristocrat, German. His father was an American who was living in Austria. And they met and had a love affair in Fontainebleau during the war. Like, her mother was working for the German occupation forces in France as a secretary, high level, in the general's offices in Fontainebleau. The father was some kind of American spy. This is as far as I can get out of Christian so far. He ended up running the office for the American occupation army in Austria after the Allied victory. So he was obviously some kind of intelligence agent in Europe, American citizen, with a fascinating backstory because his father and grandfather had been artists in Vienna. And one of them, I think it was the father, had been the last kind of head of music and arts for the last emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So this is all in Christian's backstory, right? And he was then, the parents weren't married. It was an illegitimate birth. It was a love story, summer romance. Dad went back to Austria, Mum went back to Berlin, had the baby. And of course, then the Russians invade, capture Berlin, and they rounded up all the babies. They didn't want the Germans to have children, and they captured the babies and put them into the East German, into their bit of Berlin, in hospitals, because they were. And Christian said it's like what they've been doing in Ukraine, capturing the children. They don't want Ukrainians to have babies, so they'd captured little Christian into the East German sector of Berlin. The dad, who was now running the office for the American occupation forces in Austria, said, I'm not having that. My son has been captured. And he got a jeep. He drove all the way from Vienna, or Linz. It was Linz, in fact, the capital of the American army in Austria. Drove to Berlin and found the hospital and got his son back. It's an incredible story, this, and brought him back into West Berlin, reunited him with Mum, and that's Christian's beginning. Now, I found that story very moving when I heard it, and that's why I'm sharing it now, because it's an incredible life to come into as an international child, like American, German, but conceived in France, born in Berlin. No wonder he's been trying to get peace ever since. It's sort of in his genes, really. His dad paid for him to go to a very good school in Germany, and then to go to an art college where he learned his crafts in Austria, and he fell in love with the arts, but sort of painting, design, engraving, that side of the arts. And I think his great hero is the great German artist, engraver, Dürer. He wants to be Dürer, And that was who he was taught to model himself on as a young man. So anyway, I've been getting all that sort of detail. Yesterday, which is unique, because Christian is now in his 80s. This might not be able to be, captured very soon. So that's why I'm doing it. And I'm doing one interview a month. And the one yesterday was also equally fascinating. And I just will share just brief summary of it. It was about the founding in 1994 of the International Delphic Council. Because Christian had this idea. He wanted to create a musical wing for the Olympic Games. Because he was working as a manager for artists and musicians, concert level people like Stefania. They needed someone to manage their bookings and promote them and all that. And so he was doing that, whilst he was professionally working as a consultant for financial expertise, top level stuff, which got him to visit all parts of Europe. And he met a lot of artists, and he said, look, you need managing, So he created this career for himself as a sort of hobby to begin with. But he was working with very top-level people, famous opera singers in Vienna and Munich as well. He was based in Munich at the time. And then he thought, well, let's set up a musical wing for the Olympic Games. And he created a thing to do that. They had a few sessions. And then he got a letter from the Olympic head office in Switzerland saying, oi, you can't use our name, the Olympic Games. You cannot call yourself the Olympic Musical Wing. We have the copyright. So they squashed it. He went to see a professor at the University of Munich, a classical philosopher, head of department. And he had a long chat and he said, look, this is what I want to do. And they're not letting me do it. What can I do? And that chap, who I recorded the interview, I got the name and all the details, said, no, you don't want to use the term Olympics. What you're doing is the Delphic Games. And it was that chap, as a classicist, who knew about the Delphic Games, who told Christian, no, what you want to do is set up the Delphic Games. And that gave him the seed idea. They stayed in touch ever since. That professor was a friend of Christian for many years. He's died more recently, sadly. And so they had their launch meeting in 1994 in Berlin. And people came from all over the world. There were people from Africa, from Ecuador, from Greece, from Mexico, from Lithuania, the Philippines, all parts of Germany, and a big Russian delegation came. And it was a great success. So I got yesterday the history and recording of all the details. The next year, they were invited to go to St. Petersburg. And the Russians had put in a bid to host the first, International Delphic Games. He gave a talk in Moscow at the City Duma about the Delphic movement. And he obviously got quite a lot of support from... Now, it's interesting, historically and politically, because he did set up a meeting in Dresden for the Delphic community, he was telling me last night. And all the West German ministers of culture from each of the Länder didn't come. Nobody came. And he couldn't understand why. The only people that came were the left-wing cultural ministers of the old East Germany, who were still around, So he got support from the kind of ex-communists, the left in Germany, but not from the right. And he said, why is this? And apparently someone in the government, the West German, the establishment, the CDU, conservative wing, had written out saying to everyone, don't go to the Delphic meeting. You're forbidden, But obviously he got quite a lot of support from the socialist tradition, the left-wing tradition, and not least in Russia. So the next year, in 96, they had the first Delphic World Congress in St. Petersburg in Russia. And he was reminiscing. I mean, I wish we'd had longer, I've asked him for all the photographs of all this. And it was when Sobchak was the mayor of St. Petersburg, who was the patron of that event. Federico Mayor went. He was actually there, the Secretary General of UNESCO. And he met with Gorbachev, did old Christian. Now, this is really interesting. And when I said, because at that time, I was running meetings in the UK Parliament on peace, kind of, I didn't know about what he was doing. He didn't know about what I was doing. It took years for us to come together. But I also met Gorbachev, and he sponsored the World Congress of Philosophers, which met in Moscow in '93. And I met some brilliant Russian intellectuals then. I'm still in touch with, peace thinkers. So, I can picture the thing in '96. I did ask if Putin was around, had he met Putin, because he was in St. Petersburg at the time. And Christian said, yes, he'd heard of Putin. He was like the secretary to the mayor, Sobchak, just moving up the ranks. But no, he hadn't met him. He didn't, as in like being introduced and having a chat. He might have been milling around in a conference. So that was a bit of interesting history. I was trying to get the history here. They then had a second Amphictyony meeting in Tokyo later that year in '96, which Christian went to. And this is interesting too. He was invited to go to China later, and he met the Vice Minister of Culture, and they set up a National Delphic Council in China. Now that's '96, right, already. So he was getting a lot of support from, the kind of communist wing of world geopolitics, let's say, who've always appreciated culture. You can bash them for lots of things, human rights and, Solzhenitsyn, Gulag stuff, but they did value their culture. So Christian and I had a little chat about that, and we talked about the economic politics of culture in the last 60 years, and what's going on with it all. And then in '97 he went down to Georgia, Tbilisi, for the first youth Delphic Games. So the first main adult Delphic Games had happened in St. Petersburg, and then they had this follow-up in Georgia, and it was then an independent state, so it's not part of the old Soviet Union, but obviously they had strong fraternal ties, and Georgians had come to the St. Petersburg Games and liked it, and they said, we'll do one, but we'll have it for the youth. And apparently it was a great success. Edward Shevardnadze, who was the president, came along, and they had a board meeting. So this is, it's really interesting historically. And I said, have you got all the documentation? And he said, Thomas, here in Berlin, I'm living in a library full of archives and materials. He's got all the original letters, because it was all done before email. It was done by post and telephone. He's got all the archives, and I've promised to go to Berlin as a historian. Before I publish this book, I'm going to go and look at the archives and and check on the documentation, because it's quite important historically, I think. That was really interesting, those meetings. Oh, and the other thing to say, just a little flash forward. I didn't get to it yet, but he was in 2007. Flash forward. He's in North Korea. The North Koreans invited him and the Delphic Games to Pyongyang, of all places. So there's obviously a sort of communist type, left-wing type Delphic aspect to all this. And that's interesting historically, because I was working on a thesis on ending the Cold War and going to Moscow and talking to, Marxist philosophers that had rebranded themselves as cosmic thinkers. And, and tragically now, what happened was, and I'm going to get the details next interview, is that the Russian wing split off from the Berlin wing. We now have a Delphic movement very strong in Russia, but with a sort of Russian nationalist twist to it. And then we have the international Delphic movement based in Berlin. So maybe, my job as a historian, as the Herodotus of world peace, is to see if we can heal these splits and somehow get them to look at each other's narratives and say, hi, we're all trying to do the same thing here. Shouldn't we work together? So I'll just leave that one hanging there, and I'll come back to that in a minute. I want to just say about my daughter Sophia, who sadly is not here. She should be on this call. She maybe is in the spirit world. She died, and since the last meeting, I've produced a volume of her poetry. She was a poet. She was a singer. She had a beautiful soprano voice. She could have been a concert, musician level. And she's been taken from us prematurely. It's very, very tragic. But at least I've got her poetry, and I've made a volume of it for colleagues. The next thing I want to say in this report is I invited Paris Katsivilos to come, and he couldn't because he's been working and only sleeping 2 hours a night since he got back from Mexico. But he sent me a comprehensive written report of what he's been up to, and I want to just share that. So in August, since we last met, he was in Harvard University Center for Hellenic Studies, and they had a huge 3-day event dedicated to the Delphic tradition. And he was the guest of honor. He gave speeches, and not only that, he gave an invocation to Apollo for the healing of the planet to open the entire event. There were several hundred kind of Hellenists, academics, Greeks from all over, the States. It's a very impressive building, the place at Harvard's building. It's actually in Washington, D.C., but it looks like a Greek temple. I don't know if anyone's been there. He sent me a load of photographs, which I can share in the write-up of this. And it was awesome what they did. It was co-sponsored by the Isadora Duncan Foundation. So at the end of the first day, they had like a dance performance routine from these top-level dancers from New York, who are in the Isadora Duncan tradition, dressed up as Greek muses with all the flowing dresses that Isadora Duncan loved. And it was a great success. So that's really just reporting back. And there was another chap there who called Paris Kaltsis, who's the Panos Kaltsis, who's the secretary of the Ecumenical Delphic Union, represented there. And they've called the next International Delphic Games to take place in Delphi in 2027 in the spring. And they announced that here in Harvard. So I think that's a good date. We should aim to be there. The Delphic Academy should have a sideshow there in Delphi in 2027 in the spring. And Paris will be there invoking Apollo and all the muses, and it'll be a great event. So that's in the calendar now. And there's also a committee for the restoration of the Delphic Games, which was presented at Harvard. And I've got the written text of that meeting that took place. So, in this report, I'll give all the details in the write-up of it. The other thing, as if that's not all enough, he then went to Mexico. And he was presenting at the World Philosophical Forum, which is a kind of international body of philosophers that I've come across, with Igor Kondrashin, who's a Russian, but lives in Greece. He was there in Mexico. And they went to various universities. They were hosted by the mayors of the various cities they went to in Mexico, and also the equivalent of Landa, the Mexican states. I think Mexico's a federal state. It's got little separate states. And they all hosted their visit. And everywhere he went, he was doing Delphic invocations and hymns to the muses. I mean, Paris is an actor and a poet himself. So that's what he's been up to. And that's my report from Paris, which, it was great stuff, actually. The next thing I want to say is that, and maybe we can come on to this, and it can be a lead into Ireland, is, you see, as ever, there's no funding for peace stuff, right? I mean, artists don't get funded to do peace stuff. So how can we break that problem? So I've come up with this plan, which some of you have heard about, know about. I sent out the thing, to create what's called the European Peace Agency. I think we have to take peace more seriously in Europe, and I discovered there's a thing called the European Space Agency, which I got very excited about. It includes Britain. It includes all the European countries and the UK. And it spends £7 billion a year on space research. Lovely, I love it. And they're mapping the galaxies with a telescope at the Lagrange point. Fantastic. I'm saying, let's have a European Peace Agency with the same budget. Let's match the European Space Agency. Because to the continent of Europe, peace is as important as mapping space. We need to map peace. It's as complex as the galaxy. There's a whole galaxy of peace research, peace mediation, conflict prevention. You know, the whole way it's done professionally has to be upgraded so that we as a continent take peace seriously, and we create a European Peace Agency with, you know, a proper budget, and every European country would chip in. So that's the plan. And now I'm thinking this should be based in Ireland, because I'm listening to the Irish politics of peace. And maybe, Sean, you can tell us about your new president and why should the European Peace Agency be based in Ireland? And do we have any kind of openings there?
Yes, Thomas. Oh, thanks very much for that very interesting overview of what's been happening within, the Delphic Games approach. Yeah, and just you give a very brief the background. Your idea of a European peace agency, similar to a European space agency, is a brilliant idea, and the way you have it worked out. And it just so happens that there was an opening in the Irish government. The Irish government is going to be the chairperson or president of the European Union of the 27 countries from July next year. And part of the democracy process, they've opened the idea that they are willing to take on. They've asked for ideas of what the general trend of their sixth presidency should be, and because we're a small neutral country, we saw your idea, that the European Peace Agency, as a possible idea that we can give to the Irish government, made up almost a lot of detail in it, to say, well, if we are a small peace country dedicated to peace through our constitution. We have a very interesting constitution in Ireland. There's a very important clause saying that Ireland is dedicated. I mean, this is the law of the land, to peaceful resolution of conflict by international arbitration, judicial review, conflict management. That's in our constitution, which is quite a good.
Unique, yeah.
It's unique in a way. So we've seen this opportunity of doing that, and that's where we're at. So we've preparing the approach, the submission that we're making to the Irish government for the a possible European peace agency to be based in Dublin. Now, the issue, of course, governments are, well, they are obliged to listen to their citizens, and this, I mean, they may take this on board, but how far they will go with it, we will try. There's a number of organisations in Ireland that we're going to try to get behind us to push for it, and I think there is an opening there. And the reason is, again, very briefly, because of the recent election in Ireland of a president who has declared that she's totally committed to neutrality, military neutrality, and peaceful resolution of conflicts as the best way to go. Now, the Irish government and the mainstream parties were dead against her becoming president. Now, so they will be aware that there is a strong groundswell in Ireland of maybe supporting peace initiatives because of what's happening, particularly in Europe. This crazy Rearm Europe project that they have, that are going to spend 900 billion over the next few years on arms. And when the NATO General Secretary at the European Union was asked where was that money coming from, oh, it's coming from the social and environmental funds, and the social funds are the cultural funds. So it's coming from, you couldn't make that up for craziness. And so that's my brief report. So we're in the process. We have a deadline for the 12th of December. We have your amended document, Thomas,
Right.
and we are working on it very closely here. And we're trying to get politicians, when it goes in, that there will be people in the government to say, that's a good idea. Why don't we look at it carefully? And again, they will always say the budget is the problem, particularly when they don't want to spend money on peace. There's no problem if it's
Ah,
a new set of jets or something, whatever it is they want to put in. But I mean, that's so. So that is just that
So,
short report that we're at the
yeah,
moment. So
thank you. Yeah. Um, let me just finish off a minute, if I may. So just to say, in that document, which I hope you'll have time to read, which I've sent out to everyone, in the latest amended version, I've put a table of budgetary spending comparatively from different nations on. Now, currently, the spending by NATO forces is 1.7 trillion a year, right? By America, it's 1 point something trillion, and by the European Union, it's also the amount we're spending on military costs, weapons across the continent of Europe is astronomical, astronomical. Now, I'm all for defence. I'm not absolute, like, let's all just, abolish all the armies, although I'm working towards that. But what I think is that we do need to spend some money on peace at a technical level. The guys making the arms are incredibly intelligent, sophisticated weapons people. We have their equivalent in the peace community. We have people that have been working on peace research, peace studies, mediation processes. Also the business of how you actually get down and negotiate ceasefires and truces and peace agreements. There's expertise there which isn't being drawn on by the political leaders at the moment, because people like Trump, they can't do it. It's out of their league. The European Peace Agency would have experts who could make that available. Now, the cost, 7 billion a year, looks a lot, but when you put it against the military spending, it's virtually nothing. And the entire the entire UN budget is only about 4 billion a year, and that includes the peacekeeping forces. The New York City police budget is higher than the UN. It's 5 billion a year, just for the police of New York. And when you put that against the military spending, so 7 billion a year for Europe to have peace is a fantastic investment. So that's what you can tell the Irish government. And because it would be spread out between all the European countries, it's not a lot, from each country.
yes, I think we are in a good position in Ireland because we have this president, and even our previous president, who was a poet and a
Yes.
scholar, which is great. When we in Ireland had a president, Michael Higgins, poet and scholar, and in
Yeah.
America had Trump, I think we just felt good about it, that we had put someone in, and this new president, Catherine Connolly. I think there's a great possibility for us, for even from the Delphic Academy. Now we're kind of just letting her settle in because we want to approach her, and we have approached her. We've been in contact. We actually asked her to run. Some of the peace movements got together and kind of pushed her into running it. So we're going to go back at some stage, and things like, how do we reach out to people in Russia? That would be an important, and why not through the arts? It's
Well,
the
through
only
the
way.
arts is the way to
Yeah,
do it.
look, I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
vital. So
so
whatever people here, the other two, the speakers here, and the other people from this movement, the idea is we're going to try and bring them to Catherine Connolly's movement in the Irish
Yeah.
presidency and see, can we maybe
Let
get
me
some.
let me just finish off with one last comment about the European Peace Agency, which is that the reason I've brought it to the attention of the Delphic Academy is because in the documentation for the European Peace Agency, one of its main funding streams, it would be to support the European peace groups and peace movements and things like the Delphic Academy and the Delphic Games. What people working in the arts who want to use the arts for peace would go to the European Peace Agency and say, hey, I've got this brilliant project. I want to bring all the shamans of the Nordic countries to go and work with people in Africa and all the rest of it. and they would apply for funding and be funded by it, because we'd have £7 billion to spend every year. So this is a pragmatic, practical, grounded way of doing that. And you know, I think it's got real leverage. And then lastly, sorry, Inga, do you want to come in at this point?
No, just a question to you. So, in the comparing European Peace Agency and European Space Agencies,
yes,
how far? What's yours? Like, what's the next steps? Like, what's the time frame you see?
well, we have this deadline of the 12th of December to get the document submitted to the Irish government through Sean's good offices. That's the immediate deadline. And that's, you know, I think they'll meet that deadline and it'll be done. I was wondering if it should be translated into Gaelic, so you give a bilingual text. Is that, you know, you
Yes,
can...
yeah. Oh no, there's no problem to translate into Irish.
They may like that, you know, because I mean, so as for that,
I have a lot of comments, but that was just a question, so I'll comment next.
Okay. Let me just finish off my little report then. I've only got a couple of things, and it does concern you directly. The other thing, looking back over the history of the Delphic Games with Christian and the 1990s, when a lot of hope was there in Europe, that the end of the Cold War, we signed the Treaty of Paris in 1990. I went to Berlin for the first time in 1990. And I think one of the big arguments for the peace movement in the 1990s was the link to the environment. And Gorbachev was instrumental in making that link. We realized that we can't afford, obviously, a third world nuclear war. It'd be disastrous for all humanity, for the entire planet, entire ecology. And so there was it was the rise of the green movement in Europe. It was Die Grünen in Germany and in Britain. I was part of the green movement. That's why I set up the Green University. So I think we as the Delphic Games are well positioned to present ourselves as, you know, the Delphic Games were an ecological project from the very beginning. And we should remind our colleagues around the world. So it's lovely to hear, you know, that you've been at COP doing the first ever opera on climate change. I mean, this is historic stuff, right? And I think we should have like a division for the Delphic Academy, looking at environmental issues. Call it, you know, the I don't know what name we want to use, environmental division or ecological division, looking at using the arts to raise awareness about environmental problems and promoting arts as a solution to the conflicts. Because I know as a peace scholar that the military is the worst threat to the environment around the planet. It produces more gases that are, you know, causing climate change than any other single source. And so I thought, you know, that's something that maybe Inger-Mette can help with and other colleagues. So that's what I wanted to say. That was my report on it. But now, please, comments and feedback.
Yes, I can comment.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So I mentioned in my brief introduction that I was in Sweden for the celebration of the annual meeting of Green Cross International, or Green Cross Sweden, and 25 years of the Earth Charter. So the founder of Green Cross is Gorbachev.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. So he founded the Green Cross in 1993. You met him in 1993 too, and the Congress was in 1996 for the Delphic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is like an overlap of historical reference here with the Gorbachev. So my friend Tonya Moyo in Sweden, she's a Mexican, New Mexico, US. And I met her at the Library of Alexandria. I invited her to the conference in year 2002. And I haven't seen her for 23 years.
Amazing.
Right? It's amazing. So I've been on the board for the Green Cross Sweden for some time, but it's the first time that I've been physical meeting her and the team since then. So for the Green Cross, I have introduced my friend and musical composer Sveinung, who's having the Bards for the Climate, and he is having he wants to come and see me here in Molde or in Oslo, and we're going to do his lecture and presentation of what he's doing in Ukraine. So he is having Bards for Climate and Ukraine as a theme, and he has music that is composing inspired by glaciers, and then it tells the story, and then we working on restructure of Ukraine. It's World Climate School more than Green Cross, but again, we can invite and we can take that this this leads and put it together.
Sure.
And Stefania is also in Ukraine, and we can use the arts, and I was thinking that I can invite him to come to Molde. He wants 400 pounds, euros approximately to come and covers costs. And I can invite him to come to the City of Culture, and it's the oldest opera house in Norway, and it's a small village 1 hour from here. And it's a City of Culture for till 2027. And I can even he can come and we can plan, or he can, we can do something, a hybrid activity. So that is like kind of my down.
It's the European City of Culture for 2027.
No, Norwegian City of Culture.
Oh, the Norwegian, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then here comes my little bit, I'm not sure if I should say this, but I like to have a brain research on stupidity. It's a question. I think there is it's like what can I say? Ignorance.
Yeah.
When you're living with ignorance, you ignore something of deep history or something. You ignore something important. Yeah. This ignorance has a consequence, I think, that is lack of empathy or compassion. Because you don't, it's the same as, so it's an ego culture.
Yeah.
As if you're very rich or you're very poor or you're in between everywhere, I don't know, it could be that you're ignoring something, and this is ignorance. So can we have brain research on compassion, empathy, and how people relate to the arts and culture in having compassion, and empathy, like where the heart is open, when you get the shivers of beauty and existential. So you go from the ego to the ecological understanding of a bigger cosmological or universe or cosmology.
Would you like comment on that? Can I comment?
It does, and together with that is a study I like to have. Brain research on ignorance, not stupidity, or barbarianism, the barbarian culture. Yeah. Over to you, Thomas. Can you fix that?
Yeah, well, I want to hand over to Stefania. I'm sure she's got things to say, but I'll just do a little footnote first, which is, as you know, I'm a philosopher, and that means the lover of wisdom. I've written endless books about wisdom and Sophia. But it occurred to me about 5 years ago, I was writing a book with a scientist, that, philosophers have been churning out books on wisdom for like 2,500 years, and yet the world is getting more and more stupid. So I decided we ought to start studying stupidity. And I wrote a book about stupidity as a philosopher, and looking at ignorance and making the link with ignoring. The active verb of ignorance is ignoring. I mean, Plato said evil comes from ignorance, but he never followed up with a big study of ignorance. And so I've been shouting from the rooftops, Inger. It's funny you should say. I hadn't thought of doing brain research. I mean, I'm not a neurologist or a neuroscientist, but that would be interesting. And I think
we can do that today.
It'd be interesting, and I'm 100% behind you. We have to look at ignorance.
So Plato can say that ignorance was a root cause to being evil?
Oh, absolutely. It is the cause of evil in both Hindu and Buddhist and all philosophical schools. They all agree, Plato.
Yep.
But also picking up about the arts, the reason I love the arts is when I go and hear a great performance of music, classical music, like I did in Slovenia once. I was listening to a Beethoven trio, I think. And you get the goosebumps, you get the shivers. It's like your mind can see beyond time and space. You go to a place where everything is interconnected, and that is what art does. It opens up your sensitivity. And that's why I want to see the Delphic Games flourish and take off, so that, people of culture, people of wisdom are in charge of our countries and our diplomacy. Not the kind of thugs that we've got running the show at the moment, who are operating only from one part of their intelligence. And just to finish, I heard a very interesting talk by a woman who monitors AI developments, and Stefania, you're apparently doing the same. She said she'd been studying the people that create all the AI, the Zuckerbergs, the people making the platforms.
Yeah.
And they love culture. It's a secret. They kind of actually, when they talk about deeper meaning, but they feed the peasants the fruits of their technical abilities. And kind of, so there's and she's arguing there's a new class war coming between the kind of the trolls that just do the geek stuff, and then the intellectuals who still value the arts and culture. And I think, this is an important problem facing humanity. And we should stand, as the Delphic Academy and Delphic Games, for everybody can be an artist, but it requires discipline, dedication, work, etc. Anyway, Stefania, what do you think about any comments to either me or Inger or anyone?
A lot of comments. First of all, for sharing so many different aspects of what we can do together. I think this is incredibly inspiring, and this is something that is really needed today. And being a COP, that was my very first COP. I've been at the United Nations at the headquarters already twice. I was invited 3 times, so I was mentioned, but I couldn't make it. But what I mean is, I've been there a few times. But COP was such a special energy. I was asked in one of the many interviews from RAI, is the Italian national channel. There is so much criticism to COP, to the fact that we're the number 30, and yet so little has been done to impact the climate change. But I don't believe that. So from what I've seen, technology, there is the conference I've been attending regularly is very much about sustainable technology in various aspects, where technology is actually helping the innovation to find solution for climate change. And there is so many people that have been working together to make an impact. And I believe, seeing so many on all the different levels, not just in the blue zone, there was the security with the negotiator, etc., but also in the free zone with Pandana. So there is so many people that, the majority, that they really understand that there is the need to create an harmony with the world. What was very impressive when I was there, as I was telling you, it was the fact that people criticizing, it's so expensive to go to COP. We're all taking the airplane. We're making, we have a carbon foot that is quite big. Is it really necessary? Yes, because only the moment we are together in the same room, there is the famous empathy that we were talking about that can be built, can be created, and you get the famous goosebump, this, electrical energy that can allow us to actually connect and then find together the solution. So first of all, it's impossible to just put this in the hand of the few. It has to be into education, and that's what we've been missing. So there is, you were talking about AI, the gaming, anything the television, when it came up. So there is a sort of work, a bigger picture of a plan to make the world as stupid as possible. And that comes from taking it away from the culture, from the education, from the real meaning of it, that is not to create an elite, but actually to create the understanding of society, of the world, of working together in harmony that will allow us not to have war. I loved, Thomas, I was looking at your incredible research on the interfaith relationship and the communication that there is. This is something that we very much do with music, in orchestra, in opera, in collaborations, international collaborations. And there is nothing more powerful than actually having the music that is allowing to speak to anyone in the world without the barrier of the language itself, because sometimes you get lost in translation, even if you understand English or you understand French or whatever language you're talking about. When you're trying to talk from one culture to another, there is a lost in translation that goes as well into the tradition and the social culture of it. I've been in Saudi Arabia, so I've been working with people in the Middle East. I've been meeting with people from Africa as well. Each country, China, I've been in China, each country has a different way of approaching the same need to find a solution, because we're all, human being on a planet that is dying. So we all want to do the same thing, but we have a different way of calling a god, the heart of the Amazon or whatever, the nature itself. So there is, I believe, a need for a work from our side to try to create an international language that will allow everyone to tune with us in our mission. And that will definitely be a big part of the International Peace Agency that you want to try to create.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Stefania. I will add something else that I think is quite exciting news. So, the idea for the European Peace Agency came to me when I visited Venice in 2008. I'd come from Athens, Greece, on a train all the way up the Balkans. Ended up in Venice, and I walked around the Doge's palace, and I was blown away by the beauty of it, and also the incredible maps on the wall. Which are similar to the Vatican, where they had these detailed paintings of every part of the world where Venice was trading to, from Newfoundland to the Caspian Sea, to India, to Goa, to Venice's trading links were incredible. And we're talking like the 1550s, Marco Polo times, all to China. They had the whole thing mapped on the walls of the Doge's palace. And I walked around and I thought, gosh, if just one little city in Italy could do this, and have all those, because trade was about peace for them. Everyone profits from trade. I thought, why can't we have a European Union mediation service? That was the idea that came to me. We could offer mediation. Now, unfortunately, Britain left the European Union just as I was promoting that idea to the elites of the European Union. And so, really, the European Peace Agency is a rebranding of the idea that came to me in Venice in 2008. Because, I think the European Peace Agency will, even the British won't be able to stay out of this one, right? So the exciting thing is, I've said in the documentation that I want an office, although the headquarters will be in Dublin, I want an office in Venice for the European Peace Agency, who would be specifically dedicated to the arts and peace building. I think Venice is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to, and it stands for that Italian je ne sais quoi, So it's funny that you should be, I presume you're originally from Italy, Stefania?
Yes, I'm from Modena.
Oh, right. Well, that's not too far from Venice, is it?
I forgot to mention that just in June, I received the Italian knighthood for my contribution to the arts as an Italian citizen.
You're getting an Italian knighthood?
I received it already in June, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's pretty impressive. What is the...
Thomas, my biggest love affair in Venice was last year with Stefania.
You were both there together.
We were together. I was so disappointed, Alexander. You know this, and
Sure, I know
you
the story,
know,
but
and,
yeah,
and Stefania was helping me out with this chaos that was kind of.
yeah. So look, so part of the European Peace Agency, the Dublin base,
Yes.
it will have a centre in Venice as well, and it will focus there on the arts. So the Delphic Games will have an office effectively in Venice. This is the plan. I'm just letting you know, because to me, I'm trying to help bring all these things into one synergy, if you want. And the I think we can look to ecology to teach us the interconnectedness of all life. Trees communicate with each other; they're not in competition. Plants, ecology teaches us the unity of life and consciousness, and we humans are just one node in all that. And so far as we know, life and nature is an art performance, isn't it? When I walk around the fields of France in the spring and I watch all the flowers, they're all doing their artist. Look at me, I'm beautiful, and they all are.
Yes.
And I would rather live in a world which praises beauty and appreciates.
So, if you allow me, and thank you, Stefania, and also you, Thomas. We are calling for an international language, and and it's easier than we think. It's actually Greek, because it is the new cosmology, is microcosmos, it's the ecology, is Gaia. So there is kind of a unified language for the new ecological civilization, where ethics comes before economics. We can't live on economics, but we can structure our world or cosmology through deeper knowing. So the Delphian spirit, know yourself. The biggest mirror on the planet is a selfie. So we have that know yourself on the planet, not planet Earth, but on planet water. It's obvious,
Sure.
It's easier than you think. Gaia has the same common language. Is the climate activists are there.
Yes, it's already happening, as the towers say. Yeah.
So we can. So Delphic, know yourself, humans. You are creating a life on a dying planet, but
it's not dying completely. Let's not accept that. We're fighting back. There's a resurrection.
It's fighting back, but in these ecological villages, we have to. But there is something there. So I think we are touching. And then I have one thing. If we have weaponization or rearming Europe, then we have to re-piecing it.
Yeah. I like
it. So rearming and re-piecing. So we say we want to re-piece Europe.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's great. And as you know, I've done a dictionary of words in different languages.
Yeah, that's under the 99 words. So under that one.
Yeah.
We are repiecing it.
Yes. Yeah. And also that is related to pieces. We're in pieces. So we're repiecing as putting the pieces back together again.
Yes.
Like a mosaic. And the word mosaic
through the Delphic. Through the Delphic, through the muses, through the arts. And it's happening, but we just have to be stronger in orchestrating it. Mm.
Yes. Heraclitus, one of my favourite philosophers, said a very great thing once. He said, the invisible harmony is best. And that's one of his gnomic sayings. In other words, we have that invisible harmony already to draw on. Each of us on this call and all our colleagues, we're already tuned into the invisible harmony. What we're trying to do is make it more manifest for those that can't hear it, for those that are ignoring it and who are suppressing it actively. And I wanted to ask both you and Stefania actually a question about Trump, what to do with Trumpists, because Trump gets up there and says there's no global warming, it's all a hoax. And he defunds all the good work that the Americans have been doing. How do we get through to someone like Trump, who is so armoured, and all his followers? How do you get through the message from COP? I think he didn't go to COP, did he? Because he knew he'd be he'd be in a minority.
Yeah.
What was there discussion there, Stefania, about Trump's
Um,
position, America?
I have been in many discussion about this. I have people that have been at the Trump presidency. I have connection with the new mayor of New York, for example.
Right.
So there is discussion of doing something big in America, but it's early stages. So we're talking about doing something that can bring. So the truth is the soft power of cultural diplomacy is actually the strongest peace diplomacy you can use,
Yeah.
and that's what we are trying to do. So I don't know how soon, but we're looking very soon.
Why
So
don't you try and find out the dates of the opening of his ballroom? Because he's determined to create this ballroom, and it would be for musical events. So you could offer to do an opening concert at the new ballroom in the White House on peace and ecology. The Delphic Academy, we could offer to do the opening concert. Try and put feelers out and see if we can, because Trump is a complete, he's not my kind of a guy, but in his weird craziness, he kind of knows there's something wrong with the world, and he does want to fix it in his own weird way. I'm listening to John Bolton's book, which I recommend, called In the Room When It Happened, which is a detailed study of Trump. And he was grumbling. He didn't want wars going on in the Middle East. He was trying, deep down he wants peace. So, maybe we should just use him.
if I may say,
Yeah,
last thing, in general, it doesn't matter if you like or don't like who is on power. You need to try to work with this person to make it reason so that it will do the right thing. Because in anybody, there is a right and wrong in their brain, unless they're crazy, like we've seen in the past. But, until this is not proven, we need to have the hope and therefore the energy to try to speak to who is in power so that we can help them. So, despite not being a fan of Trump, that's definitely my ambition.
and the same would go for Putin as well. We don't like his
Yeah.
policies, but the person. When I trained as a teacher, I was told, never lose your temper with a child. Don't hate the child. You can hate some of their actions. But as a teacher, you have to still love the child and encourage them to be their best self. So, the Delphic Academy is non-political in that sense, but meta-political because we have to work with all these guys. Yeah.
Let me comment also your question a little bit, Thomas. What's happening here, if you look at the Epstein system, it's actually a taxation system for very rich people that has been giving money into good intentions. Even the Norwegian Peace Institute with the Terje Rød-Larsen and other Jagland, they have been friends of Epstein. So what is happening here now? And then where did all the big money of transaction come on that level? Unfortunately, it could be. So we have to look at this system. So there is something happening now that is coming a light onto that unhealthy economical transaction and the attitude between the circle of men mostly in this leadership. So there's something there that is emerging from a different perspective of a compassionate leadership system that hopefully emerge. And when it comes to what we're looking at here, and I'd like to ask you a question also, Stefania. Next COP, I hear very well that you have this very profound a love story to COP, and it's a lot of culture, it's a lot of symbiotic energy in the conference of the parties, and the next one is going to be in Turkey, and in a little bit in Australia. And you mentioned the Greek communities in Australia, Thomas, in the beginning. So there is something with even with the peace train and the work that our dear Alexandra has tried to lift up in New York. with the synchronicity of the Climate Week and the 21st of September as the International Peace Day, because it goes together to re-peace the world, get pieces together so we can bring forward a thriving ecological civilization somehow through the arts. So Stefania, you have you been in touch with the Peace Train initiatives that is linked to the work in New York? Is it September? And there is something coming up here for the next COP that we can bring from New York to Turkey again, right?
When I performed in New York, I performed for another organization called Om Present. And this is different. These are different people from the Peace Train, and they made a big concert in Times Square, and that was on live streaming television with more than 2.2 million people, and they had different things going on. So I was invited through the composer of the opera, the soprano. Now the problem with this soprano is that she's not she she can sing, but she can't really do all the other parts. So that's why I'm stepping in for the producing side and composing side of the opera, etc. I can look into that. I'm happy to talk with the people from the train piece with Alexander. I would be delighted. And this year I went to COP because because I was invited by the British Pavilion because Thomas, as you know, I'm also British. So I spoke at the Italian Pavilion for my role with music and innovation and the role of music for the SDGs. And then instead at the British Pavilion, we actually performed the entire opera. Next year, I should have to have another project that I want to present to both the British Pavilion or the Italian Pavilion. I've actually been asked by the president of UNESCO in Greece to open the next UNESCO conference in Egypt, in Athens, and in Cyprus in May. So that would be that.
Brilliant.
Yes, so I have to develop something specific with music. They asked me, they loved the Rachmaninoff, the second piano concerto with the AI orchestra. So I have to see if I can develop the video of the AI to go into something that visually will give an impact with the music, keeping the beauty of the music of Rachmaninoff in this specific case. So yeah, we can look into different things. There is, you remember when we met in Venice, we were talking about this Italo-Japanese movie.
Yeah.
But Makoto and his team were not at all reliable, as I told you. They did big messes, so they're out of it. But now I'm speaking with the president of Universal, and we're going to do, if all goes well next year, there will be also these big movies that is about, climate impact as the background, and the unseen real message of the movie. So when that will be starting, I'll let you know, and that will be definitely something important to bring under.
Yes, it's important. So this is again connecting to Venice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, even 2 years back, do with Vandana a water topic on dancing. And I don't know if you managed to talk to her, but there is 1 million women dancing, and she's already on Netflix, and she can mobilize the dancing movement, in a grander scale.
What is
and also
this 1 million women dancing thing? Tell us about that, Inger-Mette. Who's behind it?
So
Vandana Shiva is behind it, yeah?
No. Take a lead, Stefania.
Oh, I'm not sure. So what I saw when I participated in the inauguration of this 1 million women dance there in COP 30, and Vandana, for what I understand, is the one who had the idea of create a movement of women that connect through dance for the peace and the harmony with the world. So it was launched there. We had indigenous leaders from the tribes of the Amazon, women dancing, and they led us. So there was there were different people. We prayed for the Amazon all together. And then I performed two arias from the opera, so bringing also the opera is called the Heart of the Amazon, Corazón de la Selva, the heart of
Yes. Yeah.
so that was all linked, and we all danced together, and that was the beginning of this movement that she's trying to build.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
thank you.
it's amazing. So I met Vandana in Siwa, where we had a retreat. So on the oasis of Siwa, I'm a legacy for the last 25 years with Egypt.
In Egypt, yeah.
In Egypt. So it was a 5 days retreat with Vandana Hart, and she is used to work with the World Bank, but she was trained as a dancer. So she'd been working throughout Africa, and then she decided that dance is the way we get communities together. And this is what the ecological movement and our civilization will need, the arts and culture to community or oneness. No matter how tough it will be, we will still dance, we will still sing. So Vandana has already produced We Speak Dance on Netflix. You can look it on Netflix, Thomas.
Okay.
So yeah. So and Vandana has also this thing about the river and the ocean, and it's called the Tigris. Also about the Euphrates and Tigris as the rivers that should start to flow again. And she's one of us, and we really like to invite her into doing something. And it could be that we could be at COP, it could be that we're in New York, it could be that we are in Turkey or in Egypt again, or in Venice, or in Berlin.
Can I just clarify? I'm just very stupid here. What is the surname of the Vandana you're talking about?
Vandana Hart.
Hart.
I can add the link. I just searched it, so it's here. Here is the link of the net.
Because I was getting muddled up with Vandana Shiva, who is I don't think she worked for the World Bank, so I don't think it's the same woman.
No.
Yeah. So we've got two Vandanas on the prowl. Good. We need more.
Yes.
Can I ask you something, Stefania? I want to ask something on what you said. By coincidence, I was listening to a performance on France Musique of Turandot yesterday, live concert, and you were saying that you were at a meeting, at a performance. Did you say that was in Mongolia itself?
No. So we did the premiere in London at my academy, the London Performing Academy of Music. We did it in Conway Hall, that is in Covent Garden, in December, 5th of December 2024.
Yeah.
And we had the VIP black tie premiere with ambassadors, consuls, diplomats, members of the government, all coming to see this premiere. And what we did the performance of Turandot, with instead of being Turandot with the traditional Chinese costumes, she had historically informed costumes from the archaeological finding of the Mongolian princesses, and we had Mongolian dancer with Mongolian costume dancing.
Okay. So it was in London.
Yes, I can send you actually the link of the premiere.
Excellent. No, thank you. I just wanted to check on that. And just to say another little coincidence, I have a friend in Korea, Jeremy Seligman, who I've met in India many times. He also runs a thing called the Peace Train. And I don't know if he's in touch with the New York. Can you tell us, Inger-Mette, about the New York Peace Train? Because what Jeremy works is with children. How does the New York Peace Train work? What is it? Is it an NGO or what? Do you know?
It's an ecosystem of it's not really New York. It's more like in the US. It's connected to Normandy. But I don't think I can share it too precise, because I was invited into the circle when this thing happened with Alexander. So Alexander was trying to bridge the International Delphic Academy or the Delphic Games with the peace train.
Right.
So I'm on the communication list, but I'm not in a position to be precise enough to share details.
Okay, I'm just thinking
But
we should get the two peace trains to talk to each other. There's the one in Korea and the one in America. And I'm thinking also trains which crisscross the globe can be quite a good metaphor for what we're doing.
It's a good, it's a good metaphor. But, in 1993, I organized 5 different trains in Europe to end up in Strasbourg. And I had 13 wagons, and I was rolling on station with the roller skates on, looking after kids from all the Nordic countries going to Strasbourg.
Well, I'm going to have to interview you about your history as well.
So it's a metaphor, but we already have it as a partnership with the Council of Europe and the Youth Council of Europe in Strasbourg.
But we haven't. Yeah, okay. But what we need to do is revive the peace train. So we have a train leaving Paris or London, comes from London to Paris, then it goes on to Moscow, and then it goes on the Trans-Siberian Express all the way to Vladivostok, and then it goes on to Korea. We could have a real train in which real artists are, and I'm just saying, it's a project. When we get the European Peace Agency going, it's the kind of thing they can fund, isn't it?
So this peace train will be a part of the events they like to do. Is a concert in Normandy, and then it's a fundraising. They start their fundraising on this Tuesday, the Giving Tuesday. So they empower lives and people, and so. But I'm more interested in what we can do.
Mongolian princess.
Pardon. Yes. Sorry, I got something. It went. I was sharing the link and it started talking. I didn't.
I got the links. Thank you for that. Yes. So I want to ask you a question. Would I don't know, Inger-Mette, would you be comfortable if we give you a new title? You're a member of the board of the International Delphic Academy, but can't we call you the something of the environmental division of the Delphic Academy? So your job is to go, you're doing it anyway, to network with all the ecological activist groups who are already active. And to get them sort of like with your World Climate School, you're already at the hub of all this stuff. So I'm just saying we should honour that and give you that recognition from the Delphic Academy. Yes. You can think of the title,
we can think about the title, but we right now have the coordinator of Startup for Peace. And I think that Startup for Peace, if it goes into all the knowledge parks and all the incubator spaces and all the social innovational spaces with Startup for Peace and the deep ecological values. And I'm also very happy about just being the Startup for Peace. But, of course I can think.
And well, let's think about that. I mean,
Stefania can also be part of it. It's been, can help us to think and rethink and restructure.
I just think that we need to the younger generation, like my daughter and so on, they're very excited about green issues, environmental issues. Peace to them is too abstract. They don't quite relate to it. So I think that the Delphic Academy should be making a serious move, since water is the theme of the Delphic Academy, unlike fire. So we should be sort of rebranding the work of the Delphic Academy about consciousness raising for preventing runaway destructive environmental
problems. Let me comment this from a creative perspective. In the circles that goes together like this for the symbolic Delphic Games.
Yeah, the 6 arts.
In the center of it, there is like a center which is an agora, which is democracy, how people come together, and that agora, the role of the artist and the philosophers and the poet and the thinkers comes together. And in my world of virtual reality and interactive learning like this, edutainment. We have this forum theater that can be a little bit like hybrid that Stefania is presenting with AI. So you get a visual 360 agora where you can have input, like emotional, beautiful representation of life together with, and then you sink down into smaller conversation, like in an agora. And this agora, the Alting, as in the Nordic, in the Alting.
Sure, the parliament.
We have done this 100% Alting or agora, where even water has a voice, even the mountain has a voice as a juridical structure. So it's 100% democracy in a way.
Are you saying in ancient?
No, I'm doing it now. We've done it since COVID, and people are doing it on theater performance. It's called legislative theater, forum theater. So you get a 360 immersive reality where a water speaks on the right to be water, as a waterfall, for example. So you have So that is the arts can actually hold this kind of complex rituals. So you get away from the black and white reality of opposition, and debate and confrontation.
Polarization,
Polarization. You get into the generic creative flow where only the arts can get the subtleness forward.
Yes.
And peace.
Yes.
Just an etymological. It's a training of compassion in the agora through virtual reality and AI interaction through music and arts. Do you follow me, Stefania?
Absolutely. So there is, for example, I've been working with there is so much that is that technologists are trying to do, to interact with, to make interactive places like the metaverse, this type of things. So definitely that's something that we could see if we could develop a metaverse version of the Delphin Academy where you can enter into this room and have the conversation as if you were there physically. That would be an incredible dream, I think. And anyone else that is interested could come through these just from the beauty. That's what I did with the AI orchestra and the immersive orchestra. So you come into a space that you would not expect just because you're interested in new spaces and new things that have been done with technology. And then you actually present the space where you can talk or dance or listen to music. So for example, they've been doing concerts with pop music. They've been trying to do this where you have the singer performing in this metaverse in real life from the concert, and the fans have an opportunity to actually interact and dance with the dancers. So
can I ask you a question, Stefania? With your AI orchestra, are you saying that the images of the musicians playing, they were not real people, they were AI generated?
Completely AI, yeah.
But they were all playing in sync, as if they were playing the right notes in the right rhythm, along with you.
Yes, but that was my job. So what's very important from this experience that I did, because I did before another thing with AI, I did the first AI generated, completely generated video of, actually I'm going to share that one as well in the group, of a classical piece, a transcendental study by Liszt called The Wild Hunt. And I was taking over from the mythology, the Nordic mythology of the wild hunt, of the Knights of Death, with actually the Greek myth of Diana performing in the forest, and then having, so it's very special. I'm gonna send it to you. What I didn't like was the fact that I used an AI designer to design this video, and although for a technical point of view it's spectacular, people that they work with this, they says is really amazing. The visual part of it, it didn't really correspond with the story and with the music. So there is a description of it, but is you will see is not exactly. He couldn't follow my lead. With this AI orchestra instead, so originally it was supposed to be a video with the real orchestra, part of the movie that has been postponed because of the delay with the Japanese. And so I decided to create actually an AI orchestra. So the audio was made by me with a combination of the digital audio from so it's an AI audio from the score, combined with the real recordings that belong to my record label of my performance with the orchestra in Bulgaria, in Romania, and in other parts. So I had different performances of this concerto. So mixed, so it could be something that would be very near to the way the orchestra would have played with me in real life. And then I combined the videos that I developed in AI with the music. So I was the film director. So I was the conductor first for the part of the music, of the audio, and then I was the film director, knowing when you would have the clip of the violinist, the solo of the flute, the solo of the horn, and all the different parts. So the music, if you see it, is really spectacular. It really looks like if you're watching BBC at the proms.
Have you got a copy of it, a recording of it? Did they?
I have it. I'll share it, but it's confidential, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And it works only. Actually, I have a video. I'll share a video of the live performance. I'm waiting to get the full video of the concerto. They've not done it yet, so I hope.
No, just the thing.
Yes,
I've got a technical question to you. You might be able to help. So, if I want to have an AI generated discussion, let's say we're meeting in the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, and I want to talk to Aristotle and Socrates and Pindar, and have a philosophical discussion about the meaning of art with all these people in character speaking. Is that now possible technically? Can I do that?
So. I believe so, because if you have and nowadays, I don't know if you tried ChatGPT, for example.
Yeah, I use it a lot. Yeah.
Yes, so you can ask a question, and the advantage of the ChatGPT or the AI in general is that it takes from all the information that has been put in it. So you can create the characters with knowledge that you already have, that you studied, put it into these people.
Will it generate a performance like a?
And then it can actually interact with you in real life. But all these things are so we would have to. I can look into that. So I've been asked to collaborate with the University of Naples. There is something else going on as well, maybe with the so there is a professor of robotica working with who was professor in Naples and in Imperial College. And we're going to develop a project specific on technology and music. So I could see if I can develop these.
Just to ask if we can do that with philosophical seminars online. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Also, just to say one thing I forgot to mention, when I was talking to Christian about the Delphic Games, trying to get the history, and I'm only at the beginning, I've done 2 interviews. I said to him, hey, these games that took place in St. Petersburg and Georgia, how did you organise the competitions? Like, the whole point of the Delphic Games was to get the best, theatre piece that year. Like with the Olympic Games, there was a kind of competitive element, which got people to be at their best. And they competed, and they didn't get cash prizes. They won the laurel crown from the priest or priestess of Apollo. So I asked Christian this, and his reply was, oh no, we didn't do competition. We didn't want to make it a contest. It was just so lovely being there and watching the performances. Everyone won. We gave a prize to every performer. Now, so I'm slightly confused, because I thought the whole point of the Delphic Games was to have that contest, like with the Olympic Games. If we suddenly said, no, prizes are abolished, no gold medals, everyone gets a silver medal. It would sort of take some of the excitement out of it. So I haven't finished the interviews. I'm going to keep asking that question of Christian, like, did they eventually bring in a competitive element? Or has it always been just a sort of, let's all go there, be lovely and clap each other type thing? Mm-hmm. Because going forward, I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think that the Delphic spirit can stand a bit of competition. It's like you, Stefania. You've probably won loads of competitions as a pianist, and it's part of the fun, you know, and it doesn't mean you're arrogant. It just means you then get to practice to be really good. So I don't know, what do you think? Should we go with no competitions and everyone gets a wreath, or should we be looking ahead? You know, I don't know. What do you think?
Personally, I always like competition because competition makes people want to do better. So if it's just a giving a praise, you know, you don't need to work hard because you know you're gonna go and get praised, right? So if you like to get these intellectual games, I think it would be quite beautiful, and give an award, it would be even better.
Well, that was my understanding. So I'm going to pin Christian down on this and try and find out, you know, where he's at. But so, for instance, if we take the Delphic Games into digital technologies and the arts, so there'd be an annual prize or whatever, the Delphic Award for digital artistic innovation, the sort of things you're doing. You know, are there other people doing similar stuff? Maybe there's 10 of them, and then we can, like, you know, appoint you know. So when we have the Delphic Games in Greece in 2027, we can then look at these different, you know, ask people to come forward with what they've done.
So
I think that's the logical way to do it.
So the AI Prize Award was given in Venice, and Alexander got one award, by the way. And these are friends, and I'm in direct contact with the people on AI awards. And they're setting up a studio in Lido in Venice.
Oh, really?
And we're looking for 50,000 euros. With Arman, you know Arman, Stefania?
Yes, I read about it.
Yeah. But the AI awards is going on. They are now in Cannes, in Venice, in Bali, and we're setting up in Sweden and Paris.
Well, the one I've seen in Cannes was an award for AI film.
Yes, that was AI film, correct?
Yes, so it's a different thing. I think what
it's a different thing, absolutely.
But I think, you know, the Delphic Games, for what I understood, there were games on different aspects of the arts. So
yeah, all aspects. Yeah,
philosophical, for example, you could have as it used to be. So you would have the best philosophers coming in with their dissertation or hypothesis, and have a proper conversations where you then decide the winner of the oratio, you know, or the winner of then the music. That doesn't have to be the best musician, has to be the best music projects that has to highlight the mission of the Delphic Games. So that's what I would do. I would do a competition about the best projects that highlights the Delphic Games.
The mission.
And exactly the best poetry, the best literature, the best art, the best dance, and then you come in, and then, for example, you could have one that is the best innovative way of bringing in the Delphic game mission,
and also interdisciplinary.
Inside that.
Yeah.
So Stefania, from the COP, the Conference of the Parties, it's a festival of 800,000 people, huh? How do you see a connection from the cultural stage and COP to the Delphic? If there is any, do you see any? And how do you see it?
There was a cultural pavilion. I wasn't part of this cultural pavilion, but that's something that could be very interesting to be part of. What I've seen, there were a digital pavilion for the first time. That is the one part of my, of the conference I've been part with the United Nations. And then I've seen the pavilion of all the various nations. For the first time, the UK brought in a cultural project that has never been proposed before. And that was the opera, and that's why we did it there. But there were no other space for performing, if you like. So definitely we need to look into, so the Delphic, I would have a space where to talk about this, that's for sure. So for the next COP, I could propose to talk about the Delphic Games, and then we just need to look into which one is the best place to present it and to talk about it. And then what do, sorry, what there was different levels. So Bandana was in the free zone. So the free zone is free. The blue zone where it was the place where the negotiators are, where all the nations are. So that's why it was mainly the state, the national pavilion. Okay, so we can have an event or create an event like a Bandana did into the free zone, and then have the amplification inside the blue zone through the talks and the panels as I did, or as needed the performance.
Okay, I think we
should. It's going to be in Izmir in Turkey next year. Turkey.
Yeah.
Yes, I heard.
Yeah. So, when you say pavilions, can I just clarify something, Stefania? So are these pavilions freestanding buildings in a field with walkways, or are they little like tent things inside a big hall? How do the pavilions?
So what it was a huge tent divided in the various zones, both by the different countries. So there was the Saudi Arabia pavilion, the British pavilion, the French pavilion.
So they're all within one big structure. Yeah.
Yes, but the security to get in was incredible. So it was exclusively for the people accredited by the United Nations through a very severe things, because you would have there, the top negotiator for the United Nations for the COP talking. So it wasn't open to the public.
And what did you think about the final declaration? Didn't they just take out all reference to oil? Wasn't that a bit odd? These negotiators, wasn't that Trump sort of pulling strings? I mean, what was the discussion around that issue?
To be honest, each pavilion is separate from another. So each pavilion is doing their own little things. Then you have the rooms for the negotiation, that these are even more exclusive. So exclusively for the people that have been sent there to represent the country and talk about, what we can offer or not offer. What I know is that not all the negotiation went as expected. I have a friend who actually been, supervising the negotiation for the United Nations for the past 10 years. And he was saying it's very, very complicated. There's so many special equilibrium, how do you say, balancing that you need to do between expectation, particularly Africa at the moment, is coming up with their very rich resources, but being in the hand of specific countries and not being allowed to innovate and then reach the same level. So they're watching very much Egypt, for example. That's what they were saying. on their ability of reaching modernization. So there is a desire, and that was the most beautiful bit, as well as when I went with the UK government to the trade mission to Saudi Arabia. They all understand that the natural resources are limited and they're not going to be there forever. So what they need to do, they need to invest the money that they're making for alternative solutions and for the modernization of the country so that they will be able to survive when these natural resources will be finished.
Right. Well, look, can I just say, let's draw the meeting to an end. We've reached the clock. Let's do a final go round, just last thoughts. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's been a fascinating discussion. We could go on, but I think time is... we've all got busy lives. So, look, why don't, Sean, you go first and we'll go round and just say any last thoughts, comments, whatever.
Yes. Thanks, Thomas, and thank that great information for all the other speakers. I think, yeah, with the Delphi Academy, this approach is very important as we go forward, particularly within Europe and the possible conflicts that's developing. And we interact at a rational level as individuals and as but we interact emotionally as well. And I think we're dominant. The dominant thing is the rational interaction, and we really have to swing that back to more cultural emotion. I think that's the approach that we really have to work on. And the best example at the moment is this Russia phobia that has developed in the narrative, the European narrative, because of the conflict in Ukraine. And it's very rational, but it's, we have to get around it some way. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Yes, the arts can speak to the heart in a way that mere reason can't. Yeah, I agree. That's why we're doing this job. Inger, do you want to your final thoughts of wisdom? Thank you for coming.
Well, just I'd like to say thank you, and then I feel what's coming to me right now to express is my concern from Ukraine and the bards, bardos in Greek, and the bardos for climate and for peace. It's kind of united. It's the same coin, two sides of the coin. And to bring that forward, I'm going to Oslo next on the 10th, and we're having this inner peace movement at the House of Consciousness with my Chinese Nordic friends. And I think that is happening at the same time as the Nobel Peace concert and dialogue meetings. So to cultivate the living peace through the arts, I think we have to create those events now and be very strong and visible. And also for the International Delphic Academy, get our signature events going. That's my prayer. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Stefania, do you want to have your final go? Thank you so much for all your wonderful input.
Yeah.
And give my love to London.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for inviting me, and always thank you very much to Inger, to introduce me to this beautiful academy. I very much believe that the hearts have a strong power, and the soft power is the strongest power for diplomacy. And that's what I always had the ambition to do. I have been privileged to do. And when you have the opportunity to do it, then you also have the responsibility. So I feel that the responsibility on my shoulder, as I can see, is on the shoulder of all of us. And I'm glad I'm sharing. I share it with you. And I think there would be more that can be done. And I would be very much looking forward to working together with you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, my last thought. I just want to share an etymology because I'm a philosopher of languages, and you may not know this, but the origin of the word art, A-R-T, comes from an old Indo-European root, A-R, which means to join. the concept of art is that which joins things. And it's also there in the word arm. If you look up in an etymological dictionary, I promise you this is true, right? The arm is what joins your hand to your body. So the arm is your joining thing, and you can make stuff, and it's what makes us human, our hands, our fingers. And it's also there in the word radius, because the radius is what connects the circle center to the periphery. The radius in geometry is from the same root as art. It's also there in ratio, which joins two mathematical terms. They have a ratio, a speed and a distance or whatever. And that gives us the word for reason, which also, reason also, and I'm talking Latin here, is what joins everything up. We also call that intellectus, which means literally which joins up separate words. Inter going between lexis, word. So the arts are not separate to reason. At its best, philosophy and rationality are about beauty. Last night I was listening to a fantastic new film in French about mathematics. It's about why I hate maths, and it was going around the world interviewing the greatest contemporary mathematicians, including France's Cédric Villani, who's a superstar. He won the Fields Medal. And these mathematicians are they're like artists, because for them maths is a work of beauty. When they get their formulas and their algorithms and they create new frontiers in maths, it's like an artistic creation. And I was thinking, listening to them, I thought, we've got to have a thing about mathematics and beauty, mathematics and art in the Delphic Games. In the best, not just a mathematician that can do sums and invent stuff, but someone that can see the beauty of it. And one of the things was a sculpture in the Stanford Center for Advanced Maths. There's a sculptural work being done to embody one of the most advanced equations that's ever been created on the planet in 3D. I'll send you the link to the film. It's maybe on the internet somewhere, but it was. So I think that what we're doing is important. Thank you for coming, and let's keep going. And I'm going to keep interviewing Christian. He's a great man. His story deserves to be told, and we'll meet. We'll meet in Delphi in 27. So bless you all. Keep doing the beauty. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mille grazie.
Bonne nuit. Bonne nuit.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll be in touch.
Yes, thanks, Inger.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a copy of the chats you've put, Stefania. So I'm not going to shut it down till after I've done that.
Yeah. And can you send a copy, Thomas, if you can?
I'll send the links, and
Yeah.
if anyone else has got other stuff you mentioned about that you want me to share, just email it to me and I'll forward it with the notes on this meeting, because I'll send the transcript or whatever, the summary it does.
As soon as I have the video, I have stuff on the mobile phone, so that's not very easy.
So send it to my email if you can, or my WhatsApp. I think you've got that.
Okay, I can do that. All right. Wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Stefania. Nice to see you. Bye-bye. Nice. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.